Welcome back. In today's business landscape, volatility really is the only constant, isn't it?
It absolutely feels that way. Constant change.
Yeah, we're talking about these massive shifts in consumer trust, hyperspeed global scrutiny, and, increasing climate challenges that redefine risk almost every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Navigating this environment, it needs more than just, smart strategy. It feels like it demands a fundamental shift in mindset.
I think that's right.
And that's exactly why we are diving deep today into responsible leadership, or RL as we'll call it.
RL, yeah.
We've got a really powerful stack of sources that lay out exactly what this looks like in practice. So our mission today, quickly distinguish RL from, say, standard corporate social responsibility.
What people often confuse it with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then identify the exact behaviors required and ultimately show you why this is absolutely essential for achieving, sustainable success. Success without hurting people or the planet.
And that phrase, without hurting people or the planet, that's really the core differentiator, I think.
Right.
When we talk about responsible leadership, we're defining this specific capability needed to deliver organizational performance while acting sustainably and continually innovating for long-term prosperity.
So it's not just about the next quarter.
No, exactly. Success isn't defined by the next shareholder meeting, but maybe by the next decade. It's a longer view.
Okay, let's unpack this straight away, because I think most people hear responsible and they immediately jump to stakeholder theory, that classic idea.
Balancing needs, yeah.
Balancing the needs of customers, employees, shareholders. But our sources are, pretty emphatic. RL is so much more than just balancing those kind of human interests.
It really is. Look, stakeholder theory is foundational. You can't ignore it.
Yeah.
But it often operates within a framework that's still focused on maximizing profit while, minimizing immediate damage.
Just avoiding the bad stuff.
Sort of. RL demands an elevation of action. It's driven by specific intention. And we identified 3 core behaviors that really have to underpin every decision a responsible leader makes.
Okay, what are they?
First, the leader has to focus on the broader needs of others, transcending their immediate personal interests or even just narrow organizational interests. It means looking outside your own walls.
Right.
Broader context.
Exactly. Second, they must actively consider the societal and moral implications of their decisions every single time.
Okay.
Which kind of stops that, it's legal, so it's fine. Rationale dead in its tracks.
Ah, interesting. And the third one.
And the third, which honestly I think is maybe the most challenging in the current market climate.
Yeah.
Decision-making must be based on the long term, completely divorcing success from those immediate priorities that might actually sabotage future viability.
But wait, how difficult is that third point, really? If you're a CEO, you're often fighting off, say, activist shareholders demanding immediate returns, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does a leader survive that pressure, the quarterly reporting cycle, when they choose the long-term responsible path that might cost more right now? That's the absolute critical tension. And the answer, which our sources really highlight, is that these 3 behaviors, especially that long-term focus, they build something incredibly valuable.
Which is?
Trust.
Ah.
When you consistently show you prioritize sustainability and societal impact, you dramatically increase your reputation. And trust is the ultimate strategic asset. It attracts better talent, better customers, investors, and ultimately it makes your business more resilient against those short-term market pressures.
So trust is the real ROI here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take that theory we just discussed and apply the ultimate stress test. Our sources gave us this perfect thought experiment, a car manufacturer.
Right, the car example.
Yeah. Let's picture a company that pays its staff really well, great reward packages. It's got world-class plant safety, offers customers fantastic value for money, works diligently with local authorities on traffic, planning, all that stuff.
Okay, sounds pretty good so far.
And they even sell hybrid and electric cars.
Yeah.
So that sounds extremely responsible, doesn't it? They're making a healthy profit, meeting the needs of their, human stakeholders.
They are. They're operating effectively under basic stakeholder theory.
Okay.
They're ticking the boxes for the human beneficiaries they can easily see and measure. But, and this is the key point, if we move to truly responsible leadership, we have to acknowledge stakeholders who cannot speak for themselves.
Like who?
Like the environment, natural resources, the wider ecosystem. That's where the checklist needs to get significantly deeper than just happy employees and customers.
Okay, so if we run that deeper checklist, the checklist for true RL, where must this car company show more commitment? What's missing?
Well, we need to see commitment across, let's say, 3 major operational fronts, starting with People and planning.
Right?
Workforce involvement needs to ensure continuous professional development. CPD is available at all levels. This isn't just, a nice perk. It's a real investment in a sustainable workforce that keeps the company innovating long term.
So future-proofing the skills.
Exactly. And they must also be using advanced design systems like CAD, computer-aided design, to ensure component reuse in new vehicle models.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Because it minimizes waste. It reduces energy-inefficient processes. It connects planning directly to the long-term viability of all the planet's resources. Fewer obsolete components.
Okay, so that links the design process directly to minimizing harm. What about the actual physical stuff that goes into the car? Upstream supply chains are notoriously complex and often opaque.
Absolutely critical. And this is where that broader needs principle gets a clear test. True RL demand rigorous ethical sourcing.
For example.
Well, think about the leather in a luxury car seat or the rubber in the tires.
Okay.
True RL forces that manufacturer to track the human rights record and the biodiversity impact of that single material, not just the unit cost.
Wow, okay.
They might have to choose to minimize the use of materials linked to, say, deforestation or high carbon footprints, even if they are cheaper right now. It's an intentional choice to preserve natural capital.
And we can't forget what happens at the other end, right? Once the vehicle is retired, that massive machine just sitting in a landfill somewhere.
Precisely, end of life. They have to implement comprehensive end-of-life vehicle processes, ELV.
ELV, right.
This means proactively supporting the recycling and, importantly, the remanufacturing of old parts. They should be funding facilities that dismantle and depollute the vehicles efficiently, avoiding those huge environmental stockpiles. It's the total opposite of planned obsolescence. It's planning for eventual rebirth, essentially.
Okay, designing for disassembly and reuse. And finally, what about just the basic rules of corporate citizenship? It seems obvious, but what are the absolute non-negotiables for true RL here?
Core ethics. It sounds basic, but it's crucial. This covers things like truthful reporting of vehicle emissions, a big one in that industry.
Definitely.
Accepting responsibility for faults immediately, timely recalls, and absolutely crucial for society. Paying fair taxes that benefit the communities they operate in. These aren't optional extras, they're the behavioral floor. Everything else stands on this.
So all these actions, ethical sourcing, CPD for everyone, ELV management, they sound, well, complicated and often expensive upfront.
They can be.
How do we ensure they aren't just, one-off projects led by some passionate manager, but actually a deeply embedded part of the company's DNA, its culture?
Yeah, that's the key. They must become part of the organizational culture, and that tone absolutely has to be set from the very top, the CEO, the board of directors.
Top-down commitment.
Essential. RL requires management at all levels to practice and reward these values: equity, sustainability, quality. Leaders can't just delegate this stuff. They have to be genuine role models. They have to walk the talk.
Makes sense.
And, this concept isn't actually brand new either. Our sources cite models proposed by Mack and Pless way back in 2006.
Oh, really?
Yeah, suggesting that responsible leaders need to embody multiple roles. They're stewards of resources, citizens of their communities, coaches for their staff, and visionaries for the future.
Stewards, citizens, coaches, visionaries. I like that.
And crucially, they're also storytellers and meaning enablers. They create that shared vision that makes all the hard work feel worthwhile.
And the beautiful thing about this kind of intentional commitment, as the sources show, is that it yields genuinely measurable, tangible benefits, not just abstract good feelings.
Absolutely.
The data provided on organizations that introduced, for instance, a 4-day working week without cutting pay is fascinating.
It really is. And what's so interesting there is the measured impact on both sides. For the workers, well, the results are somewhat predictable, right? Reduced stress, vastly improved work-life balance.
Sure. Makes sense.
But for the organization, the ROI was incredible. We saw reports, for example, from one large tech company showing, wait for it, 40% increase in productivity.
40%. From working less. That blows past the lost fifth day.
Exactly.
But hang on, that raises a critical challenge, though, doesn't it? Doesn't this inherently disadvantage smaller businesses? Maybe ones that really can't afford to lose that production day. Is responsible leadership only truly accessible to those with massive tech margins?
That's a fair challenge. It really is. But the data seems to suggest the opposite, actually. RL appears to unlock efficiency universally.
How so?
Well, that 40% increase in productivity, it's essentially the result of things like greater staff retention, people don't leave,
Right, lower turnover costs.
enhanced talent attraction, the best people want to work there, and more energy efficient practices simply due to lower vehicle and building use on that fifth day.
Okay.
And these benefits, attracting top talent who value their time, reducing costly turnover, these are often disproportionately helpful to smaller businesses that maybe struggle to compete purely on raw salary.
Ah, so it allows them to compete on culture and trust instead.
Precisely, which, as we established earlier, is the ultimate strategic asset, right?
Got it.
And this brings us right back to the core lesson. RL is intrinsically linked to strategic planning, ethics, sustainability, and, importantly, public value. Organizations really need to stop treating public value, that's value benefiting society as a whole, as solely the domain of the public sector.
So private companies have a role in creating public value too.
Absolutely. All organizations have responsibility, we'd argue, to deliver public value for the future benefit of society.
Okay, this all sounds a bit like a C-suite discussion, maybe board level. But the sources really emphasize that every single leader in an organization, regardless of their title, plays a role here.
That's crucial.
So if you're listening and you're, say, a leader in finance, you hold immense power in this shift. Accountants often hold leadership positions, right? And they're critical in shifting the focus away from only the purely financial objectives.
Absolutely critical, because the greatest challenge to RL often is measurement. If you can't easily measure the positive impact of an ethical decision in dollars and cents, it tends to get discounted or ignored.
Right. The spreadsheet rules all.
Sometimes, yeah. So a key role for any leader, but particularly those in finance, is to propose and implement other key metrics. Metrics that actually show the positive effects of these responsible decisions, even if they aren't immediately obvious on the bottom line.
And how do they do that?
Well, this is where something like integrated reporting becomes really crucial.
Integrated reporting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, integrated reporting aims to merge the traditional financial data with non-financial data. It demonstrates how an organization creates value over time using different forms of capital, not just financial capital, but also social capital, human capital, natural capital.
Okay, so instead of just reporting, say, the cost of buying more expensive, environmentally friendly protective clothing,
Right.
an integrated report would try to show the resulting increase in staff morale from feeling safer or valued, maybe the reduction in sick days, and perhaps the enhanced reputation that attracts new investors who specifically prioritize sustainability.
Precisely. Let's just imagine a quick scenario. The accounting team is proposing a new metric. The CEO maybe wants cheap, immediate materials, but the supply chain manager is highlighting the environmental cost. The leader in the finance team can then intervene. They can say, okay, yes, the cheap material saves us $50,000 this quarter, but by using integrated reporting, we can calculate that the higher cost, ethically sourced material, while maybe raising the short-term cost by $10,000, actually boosts our ESG ratings, reduces our environmental regulatory risk exposure by, say, 15%, and crucially, increases our top talent traction rate by 5%.
Right.
Suddenly, the long-term value creation far outweighs the short-term saving.
That really reframes the decision, doesn't it? That's the difference between being reactive and being strategically responsible.
Exactly.
It proves that the cumulative effect of all these actions, proper CPD, ethical sourcing, waste reduction, it builds a reputation that genuinely improves performance and makes the business much more resilient in the long run. Hashtag outro. So wrapping up, we've seen today that responsible leadership is, well, it's an intentional long-term commitment. It goes far beyond just basic compliance or simple stakeholder balancing. It requires actively considering those non-speaking stakeholders, like the environment. Designing efficiency right into the system, using tools like CAD and ELV processes, really vetting supply chains for human rights and biodiversity impacts, and embedding a culture where equity and sustainability aren't just talked about, but actually rewarded.
And the sources are really clear on this. Behaving responsibly consistently leads to long-term success, primarily through building that robust reputation.
Right, the trust factor again.
Exactly. That reputation, in turn, acts like a magnet. It encourages existing and potential staff, customers, suppliers, even investors to engage positively with the organization, and that sustains the business, especially through tougher economic times.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider.
Yeah, if adopting these truly responsible behaviors, like, say, rigorous ethical sourcing or investing deeply in employee CPD, if that leads not only to a more sustainable world, but also measurably better business performance and attracts the very best talent, then we really have to ask, How many irresponsible short-term decisions are organizations making today that are simply creating future competitive weakness down the road? What is the true eventual cost of not being responsible?